Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Be Her Village podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin Grayas. I'm a mom of three, I'm a doula, and I'm the founder of Be Her Village, a gift registry for moms to get the support they need as they're welcoming their baby. I am so excited to share today's episode with you. I was able to interview Holly Stein. Holly is also a mom of three, and she is the founder of Mama Meals. Now, if you have not heard about Mama Meals, please tune into this episode. Mama Meals is amazing. She actually, through her own postpartum experiences with her first, second, and now third baby, she found that her nutrition was really a missing piece in terms of her preparation. It was like reading all the books, getting ready for birth, getting the doulas, the midwives, preparing for breastfeeding. And somehow we forget, and I think this is really like a mom thing to do. I think it's pretty normal to do, or common at least, is she kind of forgot about what maybe her nutrition needs were. And as you'll listen in the episode, my story really echoes hers. And I think it's something that a lot of people, especially mothers, forget to do. We forget to take care of ourselves first. So Holly ended up going down this total rabbit hole of wellness and postpartum nutrition and how to nourish and restore her own body when she was having her babies, and then launched this absolutely incredible program where she now sends boxes of nutrient-dense, delicious meals across the country so that mothers everywhere can have wonderful, delicious, nutritious postpartum meals, and food is now part of their postpartum prep. So anyway, listen to this conversation. It is about Mama Meals, of course, but it's about so much more. It's really, we dive into some really interesting topics about not just postpartum and rest and nourishment, but also about our relationship with food, right? Like, we're 90s kids and we grew up in diet culture, and that is no longer our understanding of how we should be interacting with food. And it's really switched into how can we nourish ourselves and heal this relationship with food. And Holly is really leading the way with her recipes, with her nourishing foods, and also for this work that she's doing. She gives so many great tips about how to think about postpartum preparation through food, whether you're using Mama Meals or not. But let me tell you, her recipes sound so delicious. I can't wait for you to listen. So you can use the code BeHerVillage to get $20 off of your first Mama Meals box. Check out the show notes. All the links are in there, and enjoy the episode. I'm so excited to be having this conversation with you, Holly. Let's start at the beginning. How did you start Mama Meals?
I know it's funny because I got pregnant with my first in 2016, so he is 8 now. And I was already like very much well down the wellness, I guess, rabbit hole, you could say, at that point. Like, I'd already switched out my cleaning products, my skincare products. We were already eating organic. Like, I had watched a lot of documentaries. So when I got pregnant with him, I was like, okay, like, just what are we going to do? Like, where are we going to have this baby? We need to do some research. I was used to like researching things already. So we landed on, we decided on a birth center with a midwife. We had a doula. We did like hypno babies. I was very well researched for all of my nutrition and exercise for pregnancy. I was very well prepared for the birth. And then postpartum came, and I didn't really do any research or preparation or anything for postpartum, but it wasn't like I thought, oh, I'm good, I don't need to do that. I didn't know that I needed to do that. So, had a wonderful pregnancy, had a great birth, and then postpartum came, and I was chronically constipated for the first month. It was so bad. I felt just like blech all the time. I was eating like cold smoothies, raw salads, like well-intentioned junk food and pizza that people were bringing over. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, that pregnancy or that birth was really hard. Like, I deserve this. I was so clean, like all of pregnancy. Like, yeah, I've earned all of this, like, quote unquote, I guess, junk food, the more processed stuff. And I just did not feel good. But I thought, well, this is postpartum. Like, this is what it's supposed to be. This is very normal. And then I met a girl at a mom's group, maybe like 6 or 7 months down the road, and she was talking about how she just finished her first 40 days, and she was like coming out of the house and doing things. I'm like, what's the first 40 days? And she's like, oh, it's this book, which is a must read if you're pregnant. It's the traditional Chinese medicine approach to postpartum, saying that warm, like food should be warm, soft, like easy to digest types of foods. And I thought, man, that looking back to postpartum, that feels like it would have been really comforting. So fast forward, I knew I was going to have a second at some point. So a few years down the road, I get pregnant, and people want their like redemption, like birth. I'm like, I need the redemption postpartum. So we had the second baby at home, also great pregnancy, great birth. But I prepped over 60 meals, put them in my deep freezer. I made myself a little menu. I had like different friends come over on different days to help me cook everything. I scoured the first 40 days book. They had a lot of recipes there. I went on Pinterest, and I cannot even tell you the night and day difference of the postpartum. From the first and the second, I had no digestive issues. Every time I like was eating, I just felt like I was being wrapped in this like warm hug. Like my nipples are leaking, I'm wearing a diaper, but it just felt like, oh, everything's gonna be okay. Like I just felt okay every time I had one of those super like warm, nourishing like stews and porridges and things like that. And then for my husband, all he had to do was just defrost and reheat and bring it to me in bed. So he even felt like it was an easier postpartum, even though we had a 3-year-old like running around the house. So it was like such a wonderful postpartum experience that I had a friend, not even really a friend, an acquaintance, reach out to me when my daughter was about 6 months old saying, like, I'm really struggling postpartum. Do you have a doula recommendation? And I said, I do. Here's a doula that I know, but also I'm going to cook you some food. I'm just going to leave it on your doorstep. She's like, oh, sure. Like, that would be great. I'll Venmo you for the groceries. And I told her, I'm like, I don't even want you to Venmo me. the happiness and like it fills me with so much joy to cook this and give this experience to you that I just had. Like I don't even want the money. And so she was like, wow, the sausage stew was so great. The lactation cookies, I gave her some tea. Like she had a really positive experience with it. And then I had another friend having her third. I cooked for her instead of giving her, another onesie. And she was like, wow, I feel really different than my first two. So my daughter turned 1. I told my husband, like, we're starting this business. And he's like, we have no experience in like food-based business. Like, what are we doing? And I'm like, it doesn't matter. We're just going to figure it out. So I just started, like, I created the PDF on Canva, and I bought like a website, like a domain. I just put on the website, like, website coming soon. Click here to see the menu. And it exploded from there, like just in my local area. And then within a year, we were shipping nationwide. And now it's been a little over 3 years. And it's just like constantly growing. It's like amazing.
That's absolutely unbelievable. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I cannot begin to tell you how much I resonate with your story. It's like same thing. The wellness rabbit hole, by the way, I feel like I need that on a t-shirt. Like it's because it's good and bad, but it is certainly like this thing you go into and you
Go
keep
deep.
uncovering, right? Um, but my story with food and postpartum is so similar in that I was well researched in all the things and the midwives and the
Right.
birth center birth and the breastfeeding and all the
Right.
things. And then like it's almost hilarious. It like wasn't at the time, but now looking back and it's so funny that my husband did not know how to cook and we didn't do and didn't want to do takeout. So
Right.
I just assumed I would be able to cook every night, which is like
Oh
just like
no.
I didn't even know to put food away. I don't know why it never
Yeah,
crossed my brain. And so
same.
I remember just sitting in our apartment in New York City and like I was cluster feeding because this baby, because that's a thing, right? And
Right.
so it's just hours upon hours upon hours. And I'm like just trying to figure out. And he doesn't know how to feed me. He couldn't now 3 kids later, he can cook,
He figured it out. Yeah.
better than me sometimes. But at the time he couldn't even boil water. I mean, it was really bad. And so like my mom ended up bringing over food and everybody sort of pitched in, but it wasn't comfortable. We weren't eating right. It was like food was a source of stress because I hadn't thought in my like single child, not single, but like in my child-free sort of way, I was like, I'll just
Right.
cook every night. What's the big deal?
You
And it
don't
turned out to
know
be
how hard it is.
such a big deal. And then I like compulsively, I couldn't even fit another thing in my freezer for my second baby
Yes,
because I
yes.
was putting so much away. So this idea of, first of all, just considering food as one of the things we need to line up for ourselves, like that's a
Yes.
revolution right there. It's like it has to be on your list. It's not just the crib and the bouncers and the
No.
onesies, right? How many lists do we have of like all the products that we need? It's like, no, you need to be able
Yeah.
to nourish yourself and your
Yeah, I
family.
love that you said that food became a source of stress. And it's
Mm,
so true. Like food can either become a source of stress or it can become a very like easeful thing. And like your husband could even boil water. I get messages like that on Instagram all the time. My husband can't cook. Like you don't like you literally dump it in the pot, you turn it on and you stir it, and when it's hot, it's ready. Like
oh my
that's it.
goodness.
Like your a husband can do it. I'm like, I have faith in your husband.
I love it. And I want to go more into this, but I just love this idea of like mama meals. It's not, it's not like generic. This is food that's crafted by a mama and for mamas, which is powerful because I mean, I know this, but I really want you to talk about this also. Like, there's really specific, you sort of alluded to it with the 40 days book. Like, there are specific nutritional needs for parents that have just given birth, that have just lost blood, that are maybe breastfeeding, that are trying to nourish and recover their bodies. You can't just
Right.
have a salad. You can't just have, a sandwich. It's like there's more to it, and food can actually be medicine. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So first of all, your digestion basically like shuts down during birth. So eating like the raw veggies and the salads and things like that, it's really hard on the digestive system. So we need to like stoke that digestive fire and kind of like bring it back. And it's the things that are well cooked. But like you said, like you go through birth, and birth is very traumatic, like not in a bad way, but your body goes through this trauma. Like there's inflammation that's expected. You're healing like the wound from your placenta. Like you've lost blood, like an anticipated, an expected amount of blood loss. You have to like replenish all of these things. And Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, pretty much every other culture in the world, except for like us Western culture, says that it needs to be these like lots of like very like calorically dense foods like the healthy fats like ghee, bone broth, tallow, like butter. Like we should not be avoiding fats at this time. I don't think we should be avoiding fats ever, but especially during this time, you need protein and you need complex carbs and really high quality things. So we focus on like organic produce, regenerative and pasture raised meats, like all the like really, really nutrient dense things. Like we're like, oh, great. How many calories can we like get into this meal? Because your body is so depleted and a lot of these other cultures say how you heal yourself in your first 40 days will affect the next 40 years of your life. So you might
Mm.
feel like a couple weeks in, oh, I feel pretty good. I'm good. I'm gonna like just get back into it, and you're not resting. But then people see like these like autoimmune diseases and all these things like pop up down the road, and they say that how you heal yourself in your first 40 days can affect your next 40 years. I don't know if we'll ever have very perfect studies on anything like that. It's
It's
difficult to track.
it's really hard to have studies, but there's also such value in literally eons of wisdom, right? If you look at every culture, that's a big deal that every single ancient culture and modern day culture has, except for ours, has
Yes.
rituals around nourishing and restoring health. And it feels like a big mindset switch because like what do people think about as they're having their baby? They think like I have to lose the baby weight, right? Like there's so much pressure to like I just need to get skinny and I need to like get back to myself and it's always about the genes, right? Like I need to get back into my
Yeah.
pre-pregnancy
Oh my
genes.
gosh. Stop. Yeah. I
And
remember.
that's go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's such a it's like it's just such a surface level thought and like what you're talking about and not to knock anyone that wants to get back into their pre-pregnancy genes like any day now for me but but like you what you're talking about is really changing a mindset. How can we get more calories into this meal? How can we get more fat, more nutrient dense food? This is about like healing internally so that you can have better health overall. And it's not about the scale and it's not about which clothes fit and how many weeks postpartum.
Yes, and like anecdote. I remember sitting with my midwife at a postpartum appointment with my first, being like, "So how long until I fit back into my postpartum gene or to my regular jeans?" That was a thing I actually asked. Like, But anecdotally, the first one, I did like no preparation for postpartum. The second one, I did really great on the food, but I didn't do so great on like the rest, like some of the herbs, maybe like some of the other warmth outside of the food. But this third postpartum, I did it all. Like I did not do anything for the first 40 days that I didn't want. Like I didn't like have any food. Like, I just asked my husband to do everything. The only thing I got up to do was like go to the bathroom, maybe go outside, put my feet in the grass, get some sunshine. But I really feel like the second half of the first 40 days is like where like the magic really happened, where I felt like I was good enough to go around and do stuff, but I chose to rest and
Mm.
I chose to like keep socks on my feet and I put like a warm little like water heater bottle like near my like on my stomach all the time. I massaged myself with oil. I did all the things and this postpartum was like completely different even than the first two. So it was like I anecdotally feel like I can say like everyone got better because I did nothing. Then I did the food only, which was like a huge improvement. And then this time I did like the rest and the warmth and the other things too. And it made such a difference. And I almost
Wow.
feel like I've I'm way further ahead 6 months postpartum now than I was with the first two in terms of like even like losing some of the weight and like just feeling better.
Just feeling like yourself again, back
Yeah.
to yourself. Oh,
Yeah, not
that's amazing.
100%, of course, but I feel like I'm further ahead.
Yeah.
Like slowing down in the beginning and not rushing it, I actually feel like it put me further ahead where I am now.
That's incredible. And I am not someone who's good at slowing down or
Oh, either.
resting until like I hit complete burnout and then I can't move.
Yes,
That's my cycle.
we do.
But I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, oh, that sounds so relaxing and so beautiful and so cozy. And it's really hard to slow down and rest for a lot of us. And
Oh,
that part of it
yeah,
is just the culture of the pressure to like get back to work, get back to fitness, get back to everything, get back to yourself, and sort of pretend that this huge transformative physical, emotional birth and baby coming into your life didn't happen. You're supposed
right.
to like get back to like pre-baby, but we're never
Yes.
going to
What
get
does that
back to
even mean?
pre-baby. Yeah. We're going to be
Yeah.
post-baby. We're going to be this version of ourselves. And yeah, it's like where does that health piece fit in for us instead of returning to something that doesn't exist, switching that mindset into like how can I restore myself? How can I honor what I just did and get the right things into my body? And I love that you're saying it's not like that you have this sort of like experiment ABC testing where the
Yeah.
food is a huge piece of it, but there's also this like rest and ritual
The
and
rest.
warmth and oh, the rest. We should just stop talking and go take a nap right now. I'm just
I
kidding.
know. It's funny because this third one, I think I was maybe like 3 or 4 weeks postpartum, and I was like still resting a lot, and I thought like I just don't feel like going to do anything. I don't want to go do anything. And then I started to felt worried. I'm like, am I getting postpartum depression? Is that what's happening? And then I realized, oh no, I'm content. Like I'm just content and I'm okay with not like feeling the need to go do things. And that I've never like felt that before in my life. I'm like
Yeah.
you, like a doer, doer, doer. I need to be doing something all the time. So just feeling like I've been in this place of just like I'm content just like being here was like a huge like shift and transformation for me and I feel like I'm still like feeling like the effects of that where I'm like nah I don't need to go do that like I'm only like leaving the house for the things that I actually like want to do and not feeling the pressure to like do everything like I was before.
I love that. And I think because I do have times, and I'm in one of those places right now for myself where I am feeling much more content this winter, normally with the lack of sunlight. And I get this like weird anxiety and I get in my head and like I sort of retract from my social circles but also like feel anxious about that. And this year, there's just been, and maybe it's diet changes I've done and health changes and light changes I've done, but it's it's amazing how much I realize like some of the I need to go, I need to go, I need to go was actually just anxiety. Like I don't feel comfortable sitting still. I don't feel comfortable sitting still. And like being able to manage the anxiety through nutrient dense food and rituals and things that take care of me, all of a sudden I'm like, huh, this
I
feels
love
great.
that.
Exactly where
Okay,
I am.
where
Yeah.
do you live?
I live in New York, outside of New
Oh,
York
it's
City.
cold.
It's cold and it's dark. It's just
Yeah.
starting to get better, but like it gets dark at like 4:15 and my mental health just plummets for those like
Yes.
8 weeks of darkness. And understandably, I feel like
Yes. Yeah.
all of us go through that, but
Yeah, I'm in Southern California, so sometimes it's hard because we'll get these like really nice warm days. Like yesterday was t-shirt weather.
oh,
So it's hard sometimes to kind of like rest in the winter when it's like a really nice day out. But yeah, it does. I mean, it's starting to stay lighter out
thank
later now, like
goodness.
past like probably like 5:15, 5:30 is when the sun's setting now. So just that is like really brought a lot of life back to me.
Yes, it's we are really sensitive to light, I think more than we realize. I read the
Yes.
book the Circadian Code, which was
Oh,
have you read this? If
I
not,
haven't, but that sounds
highly
good.
recommend. Highly recommend. Like since then I've made little shifts like putting blue light glasses on
Mhm.
after sunsets, getting early morning
Yes.
sunshine on my face, all those things and like it's amazing how I like cannot stay up late anymore because my body just
No.
starts shutting down, but I feel so much better because of that, which has been really cool to manage through the dark months of the year.
Yes. Okay. So something that I've been adding into my breakfast probably the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, especially during the winter that I'm loving, is I'll take like a bag of like just frozen mixed berries and I saute and I'll just cook them until they're like cooked
Ooh,
berries and then I do like a splash of like heavy like raw cream on them.
yeah.
And it has like been the morning treat I did not know that I needed, and my digestion is loving it, and it feels so warm and cozy.
Oh my goodness. I try so hard to get food into my kids. So I've been making berry and heavy cream smoothies for my kids with like a
Ooh,
collagen powder, but
yep,
I
yep,
feel like I hate feeding them a cold meal on a cold morning before
yes,
they go out. So I am going to do that. Thank you for the
yes. Oh my
That's
gosh, I
awesome.
just bought like the bags of like frozen berries, and I just
Yes.
put them in a little saucepan with a little lid. They like cook down, and it feels almost like a berry cobbler type vibe. A
Yeah.
little
Oh,
heavy
they're
cream,
gonna love that.
so
I'm so
warm.
excited.
Yeah, so
So
I'm gonna
can
do that.
we like talked about this a little bit, but I would like to get into it. We're talking about mama meals having like very nutrient dense food. I want to like
Yes,
dive a little bit further
yeah.
into what that means because I'm sure there's people listening to this who are like, I know exactly what that means. That's what I prioritize. I'm on board already and want to listen to that. But there's probably people that are like, what is nutrient dense? Is that antioxidants? Like, what does it mean to have nutrient dense food? And maybe even specifically in that postpartum time. What do you mean when you say that?
Yeah, so our body's made it. We need vitamins and minerals, and so we incorporate organ meats into all of our meaty dishes, which sounds very scary. You cannot taste them. Like I cannot taste, or I cannot stand the taste of liver and the organs, so it has to pass my taste test of not being able to taste it. So it's like in our chili, it's in our hearty sausage stew, it's in our creamy chicken. But gram for gram, those have more nutrients than any other foods. Excuse me, any other foods out there.
Wow.
So you're getting a lot more bang for your buck in terms of like more vitamins, more minerals, and your body needs all of these different things like zinc, vitamin K, vitamin A, like all these things to heal your body when you're postpartum. So, like all the root veggies, like the sweet potatoes, the carrots, things like that are high in those vitamins. So these are all very like ancient, like root vegetables. If you think they come from the ground, they're very grounding. Like
Mm.
it's almost like these things. It's so you until you think about it, you're like, oh, it's so obvious and it makes sense. Like the grounding foods, you want to be grounded at this time. Like the ghee, and we use butter, we use collagen. So it's all of these things that your body is needing when you're repairing tissue. And we choose kind of like all those things, but they're all very nutrient dense foods that you could really eat anytime in
Mm.
life. But after you have the baby, your demand for nutrition is so much higher because you're healing from either like a major surgery if through or like through a vaginal birth. It's not something that you want to just neglect and eat like, if you think of like a salad, it's like lettuce is pretty much just made up of water.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. I love a good salad like here and there, but at this time when you are like repairing like a major wound inside and you have all this inflammation and then you're trying to produce breast milk likely you need like all the building blocks you can so from all these
Yeah.
amino acids so proteins are made up of amino acids you need all of these things for your body to like get to work and have all the materials it needs
I love
for
that.
healing.
It's like back in the 90s, I'm aging myself, but like back in the
Yeah.
90s when we were
Same
like
age as you.
so obsessed with like calories in, calories out,
Yeah.
I remember like hearing like if you eat celery, it's actually like a negative calorie
Oh my God,
food
I remember that.
because it takes more calories to burn celery than it
Yeah.
does that celery has in it. And I'm listening to you talk and I'm like, all those traditional like weight loss foods, not traditional like way back, all
Yes,
these
yes,
cultures,
yes,
but
yes.
like the 90s
But our
traditional,
generation.
right? Those foods are must be so taxing. If I'm gonna eat something, then my body must produce energy, more energy to like break it down and figure that food out versus these like what you just described, the stews and the warm, like already broken down, mushy, delicious foods
Yeah.
that our bodies can accept and get more out of, can get fat and nutrients and use it to, enrich our blood, to build our cells back up, to heal wounds. And one thing that I'm thinking of is when we're pregnant, our babies are taking from us what they need,
Oh,
right? So it's
yeah.
not going to be that our babies are depleted. They're going to
No.
be, right, these perfect little beings. And then we have to focus on ourselves, especially like
Yes.
me. I had 3 babies in 4 years. Like it's like this back
Oh,
to back.
yeah.
You need to focus. And I didn't, and I wish I did, but you need to focus on building yourself back up so that when that next baby takes what they need,
Oh, yeah.
you can get at least back to baseline before you get pregnant again.
Yeah,
It's
that's,
a
I
big
mean,
deal.
a lot of cultures practice like child spacing, like where they give a couple years in between each child because it is so taxing. Um, yeah, I would say
Yeah, the more you know. I'm
I know.
learning all of this like way too late, but it's part of why I like to talk about these things so that people can, learn the things that matter that aren't necessarily like being put right in front of us as
Yeah,
we're
but the baby's
navigating
gonna
this.
get what it needs. It's gonna take what it needs at your expense. So you need to make sure that you're replenishing yourself.
Yes,
And it can
absolutely.
take a year. It can be takes years.
Years. Yeah. At least. And like think about how long it takes us to build all of those things up and then to have fertility. And like it's interesting because some people, when they're not eating enough calories or when their body weight drops, they lose their fertility. They lose their period.
Yeah.
They're not ovulating because it takes so much energy for us to carry a pregnancy, to give birth, and then to have this postpartum time that requires sometimes in a lot of ways, especially if you're breastfeeding, more energy. You actually
Oh, yeah.
require more calories as a breastfeeding mother than as a pregnant mother because the
Yes,
baby
yes.
comes out in order to get more food and to
Oh yeah,
grow
my baby's
enormously.
he's 6 months and he's huge and he's exclusively breastfed. Like I am producing all of his food
Yeah.
like through the food that I eat right now.
Yeah. It's a big
Yeah, and
deal.
it's hard, and I definitely am a part of like the diet culture of like the calorie counting and the thing, and it was very hard in the beginning to like think about eating more fat and like doing all of those things, and even after postpartum, I was like, okay, I need to lose the weight like right away, like my like the first, and it's taken me a while to get to it, but I sincerely feel so much better since bringing in more nutrient dense foods into my life and then still like honoring that postpartum. Like I have not, this is the first postpartum I haven't been like super focused on like weight loss right away. And I feel like I'm in the same place that I was before, like when I
Wow.
was like aggressively trying.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting too. Like, I don't think we give our bodies enough credit for wanting to get back into balance, right? I feel like we
Yeah.
don't always go into weight loss journeys or health journeys understanding that our bodies just want desperately to be in balance, that is their natural state. This is
Yes.
this is sort of like arbitrary, but I have like this little cut on my finger and it was hurting so bad like 3 or 4 days ago. It's like right at like
Yeah.
the side, it's like a hangnail
Yeah.
turned a
Yes.
disaster. And it's feeling so good right now. And I didn't really do anything. And I'm just like, I'm in awe of my body today. And it's it's just like this little bit of gratitude, but my body just absolutely healed this kind of like very painful, bloody cut on my finger because that's what it does. And I had this moment this morning of like, my body is just constantly working, even when I'm not doing anything for it. I didn't put a band-aid on it. I didn't really do anything, but my body sent, the energy it needed to repair that. And now it's back to being whole and it's not painful anymore. And like to think about the other areas that that's happening that I can't see or feel it's just I have so much appreciation for my body, for our bodies and what they can do. And I kind of love that like in terms of weight loss, obviously it's like diet culture even talking about weight loss, but there certainly is like a balance where we feel most comfortable at a certain size. That's just sort of like where we are at our best. And how interesting that you're getting there organically, right? You're
Yes.
organically in the sense that like you're not counting calories and like over exercising, or you're just doing the basic foundational steps to keep yourself healthy and your body is moving towards that place where you'd like to be.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see. I've just been like focusing on a lot of walking, going out for walks. Like I really would like to work out more than I feel like I've had time to lately. But I mean, but also I feel like it's like that little cut example, like that is just like life. Like it's so like your body wants to heal and it wants to be into homeostasis. And if you give it the right environment, it will do that. Like I feel
Yes.
like that was like a mic drop.
My little finger cut. Who knew?
Yeah, like it was such a small example, but that's truly like if you give your body the right environment and the right tools and building blocks, like it will heal and do its thing.
Yes. And in ways we can't even understand. And that I think that is kind of cool for me. It's like this little thing I can see, and I'm imagining all of the cells that are
Yes.
actively working inside every day. And if I keep eating the right foods and I keep nourishing myself and not counting calories and like just eating vegetables, but like really incorporating nourishing, nutrient dense foods, imagine what's going on that I'll never even know about. But
Yes.
because I can trust that my body's working towards that balance, it's
Yeah.
really a beautiful thing.
I love that. We just
Yeah.
gotta trust.
Just gotta trust. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit because I I never like, I'm a little bit removed from postpartum, a lot of it. I'm like 9 years postpartum with my youngest. So I
Okay.
want to always just make sure that we're talking about like logistically, how do we do this, right? Because I never want to like have a whole podcast like, hey, mom who's drowning in the postpartum, who didn't do any of this prep and is listening to this going, oh, cool, maybe on my
Yeah.
next one, how, or a pregnant person who's trying to do it better, right? Whether it's for her first or for after that, like what can somebody who's listening to this who wants to have a better postpartum, what can they do? Obviously, they should order mama meals and just have you send them all the
Yeah.
delicious food. That's like the obvious thing. But what what do we do to make sure that we're getting nutrient dense food? How can we keep ourselves set up for success so that food becomes that healing, relationship
Yeah.
rather than that stressor in the postpartum time?
Yeah, so you could order. Obviously, that's one option. Some people will put gift cards, they'll register for gift cards on their registry, like with
Awesome.
you, for
Yeah.
that. But then in terms of like, it's very simple to do it yourself. So you can go on Pinterest or the First 40 Days book and find recipes. We have a free PDF on our website that has a bunch of free recipes. It's a lot of the recipes that we have on our menu that we actually sell. But I would say like download that, print out the recipes, and then I would like hand out one or two to like all your friends and family and be like, hey, can you like cook these two recipes and freeze them into smaller, like more meal-sized portions? And you pass all those out, have your village cook for you, and then now your freezer is stocked and you really didn't have to do a lot of work. For me personally, I really enjoy the stocking of my freezer. I like to cook, so I did that myself both times. But I would invite over friends. I'd be like, okay, like we're gonna make these recipes today, and I would like bond with my friends, do some cooking. For another friend, I hosted like a little like meal prep party. So everyone that was coming Venmoed me money. I took all that money, went grocery shopping. I printed out the recipes that I went over with her, and then everyone came over to my house, and we had like mimosas and kombucha and like bagels and like breakfast. And then we all cooked all this food for her and she took it all home. And she said that every time she defrosted and ate one of the meals, it reminded her of that day that we all came together and supported her. So it was like a double, like she got the food, but then she also got like the reminders of that day, which was really like nourishing for her soul
I
too.
love that. That's like a mother blessing, but you get actual postpartum help in
Yes.
the form of food at the end of it.
Yes. So she loved that. And then also if you're doing like a meal train, I always tell people, because people can put like, oh, I'm gluten free or whatever. I always tell people in the description, just say, we're trying to prioritize like soups and stews, like warm, warm foods, things like that. So you can tell people kind of like what you're trying to do. So then because people they want to give you what you want. You
Mhm.
just kind of have to guide them in that direction. And then I've had people like, well, what if it's not organic? And I'm like, if someone brought me a warm stew and it wasn't organic, I would graciously accept it and I would eat it. And just the love that's been poured into these things, if it's been made for you, I would graciously accept it and I would eat it, and it's not that big of a deal. But I
I
mean,
am
obviously,
right
like
there
we
with
try to
you.
prioritize like all of those things. But I think just kind of point people in the direction on the description of your meal train of what you're wanting, and people will do that because they want to give you what you want. So those are kind of like my tips for stocking your freezer and the food. I did a lot of like when I was doing it myself, toward like from 28 weeks and on, when I would cook something for dinner, sometimes I would just double it and then take half of it and put it right in the freezer. I also did like every Sunday, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna cook one thing that I'm gonna put into my freezer. And it would be like rice with like chicken and peanut sauce or like fried rice or other things because obviously I had access to all the mama meals. So I knew what we already had on our menu. And so then I went beyond that and did other things. Also, I had two older kids and my husband too. I also made things like for them as well. Well, my baby was coming end of August. So it was like going to be right like as school was starting for the other two. So I actually made a lot of like lunch things for my kids. Like I made a bunch of like peanut butter and jellies and I like individually kind of put them in parchment paper and I froze all those. I made a bunch of quesadillas. So I had things that were easy for my husband that like I knew we are going to have a baby. It's going to be a busy morning. And then he just could like pull out some of the stuff and then defrost it for school lunches too. So kind of like trying to prepare myself in all areas.
That's amazing. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was with the food. And then I also tried to prioritize like rest, warmth. And so you want to set yourself up for things like that too. Like I'm trying to think like, wait, hold on one second. I'm gonna pause 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Eric, can I turn the
I hear you, girl.
Okay, it's really loud.
Hey, it's okay, no, mom. They'll be. Hey, let's go. Hey, Blair, she's doing a podcast. Your mom, baby. Just remember that. They're not gonna care. Okay.
Sorry.
It's all good.
Um, But then I would try to like pre-schedule things ahead of time of like knowing like, okay, we have school starting. Who do we have available in our village to help out? So kind of thinking about like who's going to take like the older kids to school or who's going to be with me. Or one thing that we didn't do that I wish I would have done was get a postpartum doula. Because I
Mm.
thought, oh, my husband's work, he's gonna be flexible with work. He'll be fine. But he was so busy doing so many things. I'm like, it would have been nice to have a postpartum doula. So that's something I would definitely try to put funds towards, like in a registry for sure.
Absolutely. Postpartum doulas are just, I think so that's a very common idea is like, oh, my husband will do it, my husband will do it. But I think
Yeah.
we forget that they are in their own journey, right? Sleep
Yes.
changes, relationship changes, childcare. They're doing often they step into our role. So they're doing brand new things that they're not used to and navigating
Yes.
routines with children who are very reliant on routines. And it's
Right.
they're thrown into the mix. And it's hard to be the postpartum doula when you're just trying to catch your breath yourself. But
Yeah.
that is a really common thing that we do is like forget that our husbands also need that support.
Yeah, like a daytime one. Because I didn't feel like I needed a nighttime one because I'm like, I breastfeed and like the baby sleeps in our bed. So I kind of just felt like, oh, but I'm like, I really could have benefited from a daytime postpartum doula.
Absolutely. Yeah. Somebody just like take the baby and go wash dishes and do food while you guys go to sleep or
Yeah, like I
something,
think it
just
would have
like a
given,
break.
yeah, the postpartum doula I realized would have benefited not really me, it would have benefited my husband.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's always number four.
Yeah,
I don't
I don't know.
know. We'll cross that bridge when you're out of
Yeah,
the infant stage,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about ordering mama meals? What does it look like? How does it work? Like when should people be thinking about this?
Yeah.
How many like what comes in an order? Is it a weekly thing? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's very easy. You just go to the website, you click order, and it's not a subscription. So you really just order on demand, which I like that because especially like in postpartum, when my brain's kind of foggy. I didn't want like the subscription where all these meals are just keep showing up and you're like, oh shoot, I haven't gotten through these ones. And now I got to remember to cancel. It's just like you order it when you want it. Like it's very
Mhm.
controlled in that sense. And everything comes frozen. So we cook it, we freeze it, and then we ship it on dry ice because I didn't want everyone to be like, inundated with all these fresh meals, and then your in-laws bring over like something else, and then you don't get to the ones in the fridge and you feel like you're throwing food away. So everything is like in your freezer, ready to go, and you just pull it out as you need it. I feel like it also helps you stock it ahead of time. So we tell people order like a few weeks before your due date. It's so hard because babies can come between 37 and 42 weeks. So I can't, we don't have like a magic number on exactly when to order because you might go into labor earlier, or you might, not have the baby till 42 weeks. But it's give yourself some time, get your freezer stocked. And then from there, what most people do, we have a few different set packages that come with like a little variety of everything. We have like a smaller gift box that's only 8 meals, but every package after that comes with at least like one of everything that we offer. So
Mm.
most people will do a set package, find out what their favorites are, and then their next order after that will be a build-a-box, and then they'll choose all of their favorites. So some people love the chili, or they love the creamy chicken, or they love the rice pudding. So they'll get like a build-a-box 12 and then choose 12 items, and then it'll be like, maybe 4 different items, and it's like 3 of each because those were their favorites. So
That's
that's
really
like the most
smart.
common, is like starting with the set package and then doing like a build-a-box after that.
I love that. Wow.
And it can take up to a week from the time that you place the order to when it actually arrives. So definitely plan ahead for that.
But at the same time, everything can be frozen, right? So it's like you can
Yes.
stock that in late pregnancy.
Oh,
And
yes,
not
yes, yes.
not for nothing, every time you say 42 weeks, I'm like, they probably don't want to cook at 42 weeks. So they
That's true.
probably
Yeah, you
they
know what? And
probably
yeah,
can eat
everything
it.
comes frozen too. So it's not like you can freeze it. It's just it already comes frozen. So it arrives
Okay.
like in these like bricks of like, frozen soups and things. You just stash it in your freezer. I've had so many people message me telling me that they bought it and then for postpartum and then started eating it and then had to reorder another box for actually postpartum because they ate because yeah, and the pregnancy, they're like, I don't feel like cooking right now. And then they would eat it all. But also to touch on too, some people will ask like, it's if I'm giving birth and it's summer and it's so hot, like, do I have to eat these
Mm.
warm things? And so my most recent baby was end of August, and I really stuck to more of like our rice-based dishes, like the creamy chicken, the rice pudding, like our curry, like the chili. Sometimes I felt like overheated me a little bit, so I didn't eat that one as often, even though I love our chili. So you can stick to like stir fries and more grains and things like that. So it's not about overheating yourself, like it's
Mhm.
about keeping yourself like warming.
Mm.
So, I mean, I would still try to avoid like ice water and things like that in those, first 40 days, even if it is hot. But I would drink like coconut water, like, water with like lemon and things like that, like teas. Um, so you don't have to like overheat yourself
Right.
when
And
it's
I think probably it's also just a really individual thing, right? To see and just be in tune with how the foods and liquids and weather and all of that is interacting to make you feel.
yes.
I'm definitely someone who like typically is overheated. Like
Okay.
that would be something, ice water is my favorite. I'm like, oh no, no ice water.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, and I mean, and if you are going to do that, I would recommend like trying to do it in the middle of the day because that's when your
Mm.
digestive fire is strongest. So, like, I mean, this is not meant to be like, at least my opinion, this like dogma where like it's like there's no black there, it's black and white, there's no nuance to anything. Like, I mean, even it's like, oh, you're supposed to spend like the first however many days in the bed. Like I was getting cabin fever and I'm like, I just need to go outside and put my feet in the grass. And so I wasn't like walking around getting in the car doing things, but I walked outside and I stood outside in the sunshine. And that was like life-giving to me.
Yeah.
So technically should have gotten out of bed, but I'm like, there's nuance and gray to
There's
everything.
so much gray. And I love that. And we, in the beginning of this episode, we talked about the wellness rabbit hole. And I feel like that is sort of the antidote to the rabbit hole. It's like we can go into the rabbit hole while still maintaining our individuality, while still taking what feels good, leaving the rest, and not being, dogmatic about things. Like you said, what
Yes.
if it's not organic? Like you eat it because it's home cooked. And all the labels in the world, if somebody makes you a delicious home cooked meal where they have put their hands and their love and their time and energy into that meal, that's going to be better for you than any labeled thing on any shelf, right? Like we need
Yes.
to understand that energy exchange and that there's things that are bigger than just, the headlines and these like strict hard and fast rules.
Yeah, and I've gone through all the journeys of like the calorie counting, the orthorexic phase of like I can't eat this. There's pesticides or there's seed oils. I'm gonna get sick and I can't do that. And then to now finding the balance of
Yeah.
it all. And yeah, like they say, like a happy donut is better than a sad salad or something, that phrase.
I have never heard that in my life, and it might be my new favorite thing. It's
Yeah, so not
true.
saying, you should only eat donuts, but but it's to the point of like, what's gonna make you feel a little bit happier. I feel like that goes a long way. And for me, it was walking outside and sitting outside in the sunshine for a little bit.
Mm. I
So,
love that.
like,
There's also, and like this is maybe just because I have older kids, but there's also these little people watching us in our food choices. And there's these little people understanding their world based on what we're doing. And so, like, I'm definitely on a health and wellness journey, and I've changed the way I'm eating. And I'm so careful to sort of say to my kids, hey, I'm going to make you this smoothie because you need some good fat today and you need some good protein. But like they're also going to eat pizza at the birthday party and they're also going to
yes.
eat cookies at grandma's house. And when we are all exhausted and have nothing else, we're going to go to Wendy's. Like we're just there's a balance in all of that. And it's one of I think the harder parts of being a mother is that it's not just about you anymore. Like we make all these choices for ourselves, but we also have these little mirrors that are just soaking up everything we're doing as we're figuring it out for ourselves. So that flexibility is really crucial, I think.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Holly, you are just amazing. I feel so grateful to have had this time with you and to hear about your journey. And like as a mom of three myself, hearing your like ABC journey, that was
Yeah.
sort of me with my births and then like going into doula work and going into advocacy. It's beautiful how motherhood changes us. And even like the struggles in motherhood, when we use that struggle to turn it into a gift to help
Yeah.
somebody else. And like how many mothers have gotten, a Mama Meals box and have had a better postpartum, have
Oh,
had a
definitely.
better day because they're filled with nourishing, wonderful foods, feel good about those foods for their family and themselves. It's really beautiful. And I'm so grateful for you for starting
Oh,
this, for just sort
thank
of doing that
you.
entrepreneurial, like, I don't care if I know what I'm doing. I'm going to do it anyway.
We're
I
just gonna
think
figure it out. We're just
we're just
gonna
going to
figure it
figure
out.
it out because it's something that's needed in your vision of the world and you brought it to life and it's pretty amazing. So thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
I just absolutely loved that conversation with Holly. She is such a breath of fresh air, and it is really wonderful to speak to other entrepreneurs and other people who were so impacted by their own maternal experience, by their own motherhood experience, that they went on to create a business or a service or product or something that helps other mothers. And Holly has done exactly that. And I'm so happy for all of her success. Check out Mama Meals. You can find them on Instagram. You can find them on their website, mama-meals.com. And you can use the code BeHerVillage, all caps, BeHerVillage, to save $20 off. The link is in the show notes. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Be Her Village podcast. Make sure you click that subscribe button so that you'll never miss an episode. Until next time, bye.